Welcome to Spiritual Soul, Shaun Grant. I absolutely think you are just an amazing soul. And I don't really know you at all, but you're one of those people that just, as soon as you pop up on the screen or, you just drift by you on Instagram or whatever it is, there's just a flash of divine high energy that is palpable. And I had the immediate sense that you're trustworthy, that you are genuine. And that word genuine has been bandied about quite a bit, but I want to go deeper. I think you understand what I mean. It's just,
Yeah.
I feel like you embody something deeper than that, uh, how that word might suggest otherwise.
Yeah.
I think it's really about being a soul person, being authentic, being
Mhm.
God
Yeah.
connected. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's great. And I'm sure people will just feel your vibes just naturally.
Mm.
And so I just wanted to share at the beginning those immediate vibes that you kind of gave me, because not everybody is um, embodied in that sense of God connection and
Mhm.
positivity and high vibration. And of course, we can't always be all things. Uh,
Yes.
but but I really like to let people know when they have just something about them, and that it's recognized on a soul level, and that's coming from a higher place as well. And energetically, you just immediately felt vibrant, clear. It's what I call a clear person. And there's
Mm.
no perfect here. We're all going through our stuff,
Right.
but I recognize it as a signature of clarity and trust. So I just wanted to share that.
Mm.
And I just feel like, yeah, you vibrate so much truth and authenticity, and you're an awakener and a manifester in the true divine meaning of the word.
Wow.
um, and you just carry these, I guess, whatever you want to call it, these divine codes that are just popping out. And I'm
Mm.
sure I've got so many goosebumps right now.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
sure you've
amazing.
got
Keep going.
more
Keep going. Keep going.
I love it. And I'm sure you've got more divine codes like ready to pop, and I'm feeling
Yes.
that's where we're at too as a planet.
Mhm.
As I say that, I'm feeling that for myself as well, for many, if not all, in our own way. However, we're like on this borderline of popping. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just share the image that I'm receiving now. Just the angels sometimes pop through and bring images, but it's like a water on a in a glass which is just bulbously hanging over the edge. And usually when I
Mm.
receive that, it's about someone's emotions, like about to go,
Yeah.
and they're just holding it in. But
Yeah.
now they bring it in this sense of it's like source energy ready to explode, like a beautiful volcano of light, and to
Wow.
integrate all that we've been learning, all that we've been going through, because so many of us have gone through so many traumatic things, and layers and
Yes.
layers of deep, deep healing in this lifetime and many.
Hmm.
And I just feel like you being here right now is somehow connected to all of this, and perhaps too just even carrying some kind of energy that will infiltrate to others and help them. It's like I actually spoke to someone recently, and a message that I got was the work that we were doing, or that person was
Hmm.
doing, was like a carpet rolled over that keeps rolling. That's how the angels show it, and you don't know how
Mm.
far that roll of
Yeah.
carpet goes, and it goes out
I
to
love
others.
that. I
Yeah.
love that.
And
That's profound, and it's easy to understand, but it's really profound, that whole vision, because that's truly how life is one step at a time, one step at a time, but you can't get to the next step until you take this step, right? And
mm,
master whatever it is that you have to do in order to move to the next. That's a beautiful vision.
yeah, it's so true. And with that roll of carpet, I'm just seeing it now as you, if it's rolled up, it's got all the density inside it, all the
Hmm.
darkness,
Yeah.
all our shadows.
Yeah.
And then
Third dimensional stuff.
yeah. And then some of us don't want to open that up, right? And that's the
Hmm.
fear. And I know that that's one of the things you speak on, something I saw somewhere online on
Yeah.
Instagram or something, and I'll get to that. Um,
Nice.
and it's like the roll of carpet. So it insulates you, but when you dare, when you
Hmm.
dare to unfurl yourself, then the light comes on it, and it's like the outside of that carpet roll is where all the light hits. And then as you roll it
Mm,
out, and it expands and opens up more. And I think it
yeah.
just kind of like you probably embody that day in and day out.
Well, we all do our best to a high
Hmm.
degree, so that's what counts, given the effort.
Yep, completely. And so I guess I'll just do your official little bio introduction,
Okay.
which is that you're Reverend Shaun Robert Grant,
Hmm.
a spiritual teacher of higher conscious awareness.
Hmm.
It's the energy thing. When I read that at first, I just felt
Hmm.
the energy of the words,
Yeah,
and consciousness is something that's hard to define, isn't it?
it
Uh,
is. It
it's
is.
something you kind of enter, and yeah, maybe we can move into that. But I just want to say
Yeah,
that you
for sure.
specialize in helping others awaken to authenticity in every area of their lives, which is really, even just that alone, like I feel there's so much power even just in each word there, because not just one, right? But one
Yeah,
unfurls the rest.
yeah,
It's all connected.
yeah.
And that you understand, live, and teach that true fulfillment comes from discovering the divine power within.
Mhm.
And that's something that just feel really strongly today with you.
Yeah.
And it starts an empowering mindset with the willingness to be vulnerable, because
Mhm.
that's the thing. That's when you're in your carpet roll, and
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
vulnerable? Do you dare to come out of it?
yeah.
Enough to express your emotions and heal your past trauma.
Mhm.
And this becomes the transition of living a normal life to an extraordinary life. Uh,
Yes.
and and that can be so many things, and it can be so simple as well.
Yes, absolutely.
It's in the simplicity and the divinity of life, beyond
Yeah,
appearances, I guess.
yeah,
um,
totally agree. Totally agree.
yeah, and you have authored 9 books on spirituality and self-awareness, which is amazing and wonderful and beautiful. And you've created 5 spiritually inspired podcasts, which I didn't
Mhm.
initially know. And so please do talk about all of that at some stage or at the end.
Yeah,
And you've been published in different spiritual publications. So you're out there doing your thing, walking your walk, your
yeah,
talk.
yeah. One day at a time.
That's it, one day at a time. That's all it can be.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and so I'd like to start with, there was something that I came across on Instagram or TikTok of yours,
Mhm.
and just the words really called to me, and then I realized, okay, you're really into speaking out energy
Yeah,
through words and intention,
yeah.
and there's a power in it for those who embody that essence, who get it.
Mhm.
And so the words, because I could read them and feel them on an energetic level. And I think that sometimes when people think about affirmations and things like that, they just think, for example, like I'm rich, and then I know I'm not rich, I can't pay the next bill, and this is a crock
Right.
of what. um, that's one way to look at it. But there's
Yeah.
also that it's about your energy and your mindset and your belief and your connection, and that's what taps you in and creates that
Mhm.
energy, and aligns everything. So I just wanted to read
Mhm.
like an example of what you wrote. I
Okay.
am super psychic,
Mhm.
intuitive within my subconscious mind. I massively, lovingly, and successfully use my gifts to easily, effectively, and effortlessly uplift, empower, and inspire people everywhere, because we're not
Yeah.
limited, just we're rolling the carpet out under grace in a perfect way.
Mhm.
And just the
Wow.
energy of it speaks for itself. So let's just start there.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we were scheduled to do the 11th, I believe, of this month. And we got postponed a bit. And it's always, whenever anything, something like that happens, anytime the divine moves things around, I'm always curious to know, okay, why was that moved around? So I was going through probably one of the deepest spiritual awakenings of my entire life at that point in time. And there were 2 nights during that period where I was literally experiencing a death. The energy in my body was so on a deep, dense, low vibrational level that I just felt completely sick, completely nauseated. It was so painful. I was just like, if you're familiar with the Bible, like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane asking, like, please take this away. I know I got to go through it, but if you can take it away, please take it away. And it happened twice. And the reason why I think that is so significant also in relation to why we were postponed, it helped me to understand that for basically all of my life, I posted about this today, 39 years, I denied my true psychic, empathic, intuitive ability. I had it very strongly as a child. And it's funny when the divine helps you to look back on things when you are resonating at a higher consciousness, when you're able to understand it a little bit better. And so I was looking back on it, and I used to think that, I was just sensitive, just sensitive. And the divine was like, no, you were sensitive because you could experience all the energy around you, which is why you cried so much. Right. But that wasn't okay with the adults surrounding me. So they silenced it, for the most part. And not only did they silence it, once I began my journey at private school, in Catholicism, they completely said it was devil's work. So I'm like, okay, I'm 5. I'm not about to be an outcast under any circumstance whatsoever. So I suppressed it, but it just continued to come back, you know, bit by bit until recently it raged. And it's fitting because I teach about authenticity, yet one of the most dynamic, integral, significant parts of myself I was denying because I had done it as a child, and that was my trauma. So after going through those, I guess, dark nights of the soul, so to speak, it reemerged, and it reemerged in a way that was just like, this is a new me, even if that's possible. I thought I was so um, endowed with my sincere, genuine, authentic self, but then this comes along and it just busts open so much, and I'm like seeing energy different, feeling energy different, picking up on things intuitively, getting psychic impressions, and just I like the other day I was in the store, and it's kind of sad because it happened to me before. Um, I was on the phone with a friend and or more of an acquaintance at the time, and I could feel like this just sickening energy in the area of the solar plexus and in the lower chakras. And I'm like, I was fasting that day, so it was just really weird. I'm like, what in the world is going on with my stomach? And, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I found out later on he was actually, diagnosed with cancer. So I was like, okay, that was his energy letting me know that he was actually in a state where his body was getting ready to attack itself. And then the other day, I experienced the exact same thing with the lady who was at the register. I'm like, I'm fasting because I fast pretty much all day long. I was like, there's no reason my stomach should be doing turning in circles and knots and things. And then I picked it up and it was the same impression. And immediately the divine drew me back to that time when I was on the phone with the guy who had the same situation. So all of those things have started to really start to come in and expand itself in a really dynamic way. So sorry, a bit long winded there, but
No, 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 it's you speak, speak, speak. Yeah, no, I really relate to what you're saying on so many
Mhm.
levels. I mean, the psychic thing, so many people have those moments where it's extra or it just comes forth or it awakens, reawakens. And you mentioned it
Yes.
being squashed
Yes.
before. There's so
Hmm.
many things, directions I can go with this, but it was funny because that I wrote down suppression leading to explosion
Yeah.
because it's gone from one extreme of being squashed to
Yeah.
totally opening up like a
Yeah.
volcano. And
Absolutely.
that's what it's about, and it's learning to be able to discern, and you'll learn from it each time. So then in future, when you get that feeling again,
Yeah.
you'll know what it might mean. Um,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
the whole thing with, I also have a Catholic background, but not
Hmm.
never, it was never like enforced upon me hugely or anything like that.
Hmm.
But I love that you brought that up.
Hmm.
For me, it's just having the Croatian background and was just baptized in
Yeah.
that, and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But I like to just consider myself as openly spiritual, and that's it.
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
think
and
that's really the way to be. And I think our initial religious upbringings are just stepping stones to true spirituality and ultimately true connection to God. Like true, not just connection, but embodiment as
mm,
well. And I couldn't have got there without religion. So it's kind of like a coin in a lot of sense, in a lot of ways, because for all the bad there was, or all the limiting stuff that they had, there was also some really expansive things that have come through it because I was able to go through that entire experience.
it's true, and each to their own. And
Hmm.
religion can also be a wonderful thing. It's just for each person, and I
Yeah.
just feel like it's funny that you brought that up because just recently I've really been thinking about it's time to start talking about all of that.
Yeah.
And there's so many.
Ding, ding, ding,
You
ding.
hear me? Yeah. There's so many layers, and something even came through before you popped on screen today about that as well.
Mhm.
um, and I really do believe that when you mentioned your childhood and being sensitive and it all being squashed down,
Yeah.
I really believe Jesus was an intuitive empath.
Absolutely. Right. There's a book. I think the title is Jesus Was a Mystic. And that resonated vibrationally so deeply with me because it just, even when you learn to read the Bible not like a traditional Christian or Catholic or whatever it is, but you learn how to receive the truth of what is really being conveyed in those pages, it speaks to you intuitively completely that Jesus was a mystic because the experiences and the encounters are such on a higher level of consciousness that it was almost like, what is this man talking about? Is a reaction of the people, around him. And then also they denied him so much because it was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was blowing their minds. And I just really, really feel the resonance of that statement of Jesus being a mystic completely, right? Like everything aside from everything we've been taught, it's like those truths, once you reach a higher frequency, they start to be revealed to you into your consciousness. And it's like, it's amazing to really sort of see everything that comes forth when you're open and ready to receive it.
It's so true. And just the words open, it is, it's like
Mhm.
opening yourself up. And
Yeah.
so the image I did receive before you popped on, which I was like, I just sat for a little while and I cleared my energy, cleared my chakras. And then
Yeah.
sometimes when that happens, I start getting stuff and I'm like, not now, I'm about to
Yeah.
interview someone. But of course it connects, which
Yeah.
was, and each to their own again when it comes to religion and spirituality. But I'll just share what
Absolutely.
came to me, which
Hmm.
is, I saw religion as being, like a box. And
Yeah.
we have all these boxes in life. There's all that you could, millions of them,
Hmm.
all the mind control and mindset things and the matrix and just
Yeah.
everything, like boxes within boxes. We
Yeah.
form our
Yeah.
own boxes, right? Limited
Yeah.
beliefs, all the rest of it. So I just saw it in that way, although it can be, a beautiful open urn to some. But the
Hmm.
idea of it was that when we open all our boxes, and it's almost like you're just letting go of all the negative stuff, or you're letting go of all the control, or you're letting go of
Yes.
just everything. And
Hmm.
then all that is open space. And
Yeah.
so when you mentioned before, like openness or
Yeah.
just that brought that back. And that's where I feel is the most safe, free, liberating, expansive feeling of just being open to the all.
Yes. Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
pure.
Yeah. And you know, the biggest limitation I think we find is when we're hung up on third dimensional material concepts. I've always found intuitively for myself, and I think it's true for everybody, when we obsess over anything in that's tangible, that's in the material world, it'll always cause some form of control, which equals anxiety, which comes from a place of fear. But if we are able to step into that openness, like you said, and that's basically just really honing in on our divine essence, it's it's amazing how much you can move with ease, with love, with compassion, and then you step into your gifts, and then the universe just begins to deliver in the most confounding, unexpected ways possible. And I just think that's I've started calling it pure divine magic because that's what it is you finally tap into what you've been looking for this entire life, the whole time you've been here is just, and it's hard to articulate, but it's absolutely amazing when you're going through it.
Wow. And the truth was there all along. It's just we had to dare to open some of those boxes
Absolutely.
to get there.
Couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
I love it.
Absolutely.
um, you mentioned honing in on your divine essence,
Mhm.
and the feeling is of going in to then open up to out. And it's all kind of
Yes.
interlinked, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes people think with intuition or whatever, you need to like go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be like that.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
it's also going within, and then you kind of expand from going within
Hmm.
in,
Yeah.
in this sort of reciprocating, balanced way, I guess.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and so um, for people who are not sure, like, what does that mean, or how do I do this, or I try, but then I get distracted, or can
Hmm.
you just speak on that as well as your interpretation of consciousness and awareness,
Yeah.
all of that?
Okay. I'll start first with consciousness. And I'll give the most understandable definition of what I feel consciousness is. And that's your ability to think, feel, and operate on a certain level of vibration, or in this case, a certain frequency. So your perception is your consciousness. It's your awareness, your ability to be aware of certain things within yourself that then reflects to the outside. So if I have an internal shift, my consciousness is raised, and then I can be more aware of the world around me, which is actually the world inside of me, just giving me what I've, stepped into. So I said that was going to be easy, but that was kind of complicated.
I get it though. But
But
yeah,
in a nutshell, consciousness is how you think, how you feel, and how you act. That's for me, having to, if I had to teach that, that's how I would teach it, because every time you have a spiritual awakening, every time you shift in a transformational capacity, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you resonate in general changes until, you get to that level where you're you're tapped into this idea of oneness, of being completely one with God, and then it's just an unfoldment. It's not even necessarily a thinking thing, a feeling thing. You're still acting, but thinking and feeling kind of go out of the window because God is not limited. The divine is not limited by time and space, right? Time and space can sometimes be like constricting to the point where we trick ourselves into believing something has to take a certain amount of time, or certain things have to happen. But once we tap into that essence of oneness, that God consciousness, it's often called sometimes, that enables us to really see like things can happen like that. And it was, you know, to the outside looking in, it looked like it looks like it can be something that could take 30 years. Like you say, for the instance, perfect example is like buying a house, right? For most people, buying a house is a process of go to work, work, save. And then, you make enough money, you get a mortgage, and then you pay it off in 30 years. But by tapping into oneness, the whole thing can change. It can be condensed because, once again, God does not work through time and space. Divine timing is just another term for us being able to be at a vibration where we are compatible and receptive to what it is that we're desiring. And so that's not an essence of time. That's an essence of how fast can we awaken. Okay. So that's kind of like consciousness to me in a sense. Um, you talked about distraction. And I think the biggest distraction can oftentimes be our own minds because they consistently go and go and go. And I've heard it called monkey mind, and you just overthink yourself until the point you just get tired and you just can't deal, and then you start going to your distractions. The biggest, I believe, the biggest solution for me to distraction has easily, without a doubt, been meditation. The more time I spend meditating, the more time I spend, embodying my divine truth, my divine essence, you know, God in its entirety for everything that it is. That's when I find I am easily able to focus on the task at hand. I'm not distracted by the phone, by the computer, by the TV, by what's going on with the neighbors or anything of that stuff. It really helps me to bring all the attention back into me. And when I kind of focus, most people think, you got to focus on your mind. But when I focus on that heart center and I really like take the time to connect with that, not necessarily force it, but just let it sort of overtake me a bit, everything just kind of subsides. And it's just that moment that is completely present, that is completely calm, full of tranquility. And there is when all of the divine downloads just start filing in because it's you finally cleared your vessel, so to speak, to let yourself be in peace and be once again open because God broadcasts 24/7. And intuition is just, it's always giving you messages. You just have to resonate at that frequency to get them. And that frequency is usually just tranquility, calm, serenity, and ultimately peace within. So distraction can be alleviated through meditation and just focusing internally on yourself, on your
Mm.
your true divine essence.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to describe it. And I think
Thank you.
people will connect through that sense of tranquility just through listening to you, and your voice carries that. Your voice carries
Mm,
vibrations of that. Um,
thank you.
and you really, when you speak about the oneness and all
Hmm.
of that, it's like, and the timelessness, it's quantum. I think we're, because we're
Yeah.
moving and shifting into this understanding of, or quantum, which is something far beyond. Like I'm getting the image now of the angels show of like a diamond that is has all these endless facets, and we
Yes.
just thought we were this little pebble. you know, we were like live these little lives, a pebble in a box, and we had a million
Yeah.
boxes within the box,
Yeah.
and not
Exactly.
knowing, or we actually. As a child, we had glimpses of knowing. We came with the
Mm,
knowing, and then it was
yeah.
squashed and squashed and squashed, like with you.
Yeah.
Um, and us believing we're just not only just a little pebble, but even just this dirty little useless, hopeless, whatever, horrible
Yeah.
stone, for when we're feeling, rotten.
Yeah.
um, and actually, the irony of it all is we're just got the complete opposite of that. So many
Hmm.
facets, and I think with the quantum thing is opening us up to not only that there is so much more, but we are so much more, and
Yeah.
we can quickly, and I love the way you said these words, with ease,
Hmm.
effortlessly tap
Hmm.
into that when we just relax into things and just
Yeah.
allow it to be. And
Yeah.
then when you spoke about your heart and not forcing it, because for
Hmm.
many people that are just bogged down and it's by no one's fault, or it's hard, this world, especially recent
Hmm.
times,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, for sure.
people are working themselves to the ground, and there's no time or space to breathe, and
Yeah.
breath is the connection,
Hmm.
and so many are
Hmm.
holding that in as well. And when they try to sit down, it's almost like a force,
Yes.
forcing oneself. And
Yep.
it's hard to unravel.
Hmm.
When you spoke about the heart, it really made me feel like you're really tapping into something there, which is also another kind of hidden truth in a way. But the heart is also like a chamber, a transmuter. It's like it can
Hmm.
transmute things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
has
totally.
a power of its own. It's like the angels show me. It's like a blender almost, in the
Yep.
transmutation sense of you can just throw things down there and it will gobble it up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, as soon as you said that, forgiveness came to mind, and how powerful forgiveness is in every situation that we may feel stagnant in, because it's the heart that has the capacity to forgive, because it ultimately has the infinite capacity to love. And forgiveness is a part of love. So it's transmuting any type of energy that would ever hold us back or keep us separated from being completely whole in a divine sense.
Yeah, it's just so resonating, and forgiveness is such a theme that I'm sure many will connect with, as do
Yeah.
I. It
Yeah.
opens something up.
Mhm.
A shift can happen, a profound shift can happen when you dare to cross that bridge. And
Yes.
when you're in the box, or in the, as some people refer to, the lower 3D, or when you're just feeling horrible about everything and negative and all that stuff, as we
Mhm.
all do and have,
Yeah.
it's hard to do that. And that's where that sort of that notion of it's not necessarily always the person you're forgiving, although it can be too.
Right.
Sometimes for very severe situations, it's forgiving even yourself or the situation from happening to you, seeing yourself as a
Absolutely.
sort of a victim of it. And then when you're a
Mhm.
victim of it, which is fair also, because it feels
Mhm.
like that and it can
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
that it's like realigning yourself in from victimhood into moving towards, because you cross that bridge to the light, and the light is the
Mhm.
truth, and the light is
Yeah.
information and healing. And when that happens, like the big light bulb goes off, and then everything kind of disintegrates of the
Yeah.
lower, and you're not in that old paradigm anymore and
Right.
story.
So true. So true. Well said.
And we all have so many stories.
Mhm.
So, is there a story
Yes.
you would like to share where you have moved from fear to breakthrough?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to open up completely, and I'm going to tell you my story in regards to suicide, because I think that is as low as it gets. And, it's important to be able to feel free enough to talk about that, and talk about that in a confident way, from what you've gone through to what you've overcome. And so this dates back um a number of years. I don't know exactly, so I won't put a number on it, but it's a number of years ago. I remember, growing up, I always wanted to be this football star, this really big football superstar. And, I had really, really, just magnificent dreams about that, and helping my family and being on TV and all these amazing things. And so I went relentlessly after it. And well, because of injuries, things didn't necessarily work out in the way that I wanted them to. And I found that I began to press and press and press. And then that sort of affected how I performed in school, and then how it affected my relationships and my friendships and all these things. And so I was spiraling out of control, to the point where I got kicked out of school. So it was like my junior, almost senior year of college. I got kicked out of school and sent home, and I just went into this rampage of drinking and self-destruction. And I just couldn't get myself out of it. I felt like I've worked so hard and so long at this dream, yet it didn't work out for me. And that was one of the first lessons ever about still being able to accept the treasures in something when it doesn't work out, even though you put the time and effort into it and energy. So it was during that time I was on a bender, and I drank so heavily. I was feeling so depressed. And I can remember one night I went out by myself and I was at the bar, and I was just throwing shots back left and right, and then beers. I would say that night I drank 13 or 14 different alcoholic drinks. So I was just inebriated, and it was about 1:15 or something in the morning. And I actually no, sorry, the bit of time earlier than that, because I left, because I remember I drove my car to the lake where I lived at in New Orleans, and it was about 1:15 in the morning. And, I got out of my car and thought about my last move. I was gonna, run my car into the lake and Lake Pontchartrain and just be done with it. And I got back in the car and I started to think about all the moments and all the things that I didn't accomplish, in my young life, and what I wouldn't be able to accomplish and how would I be remembered and all these things. And it began to get really sad. And so I was like, you know what, I'm done. So I turn on the car, and as soon as I'm getting ready to put it in drive, my cell phone rings. And I'm like, I'm not answering that. So I silence it, and it rings again. Like, as soon as I silence it, literally like 30 seconds later, it rings again. So cars in park. Turns out it's one of my friends, and she had saw me out earlier that night, and she was just like, I know you're in a bad state, but don't do this. You have too many people that love you. You have too many people who care. You've got so much life to live. Don't be selfish. You have to learn how to battle back, right? And so her words rang true to the point where I had tears because I was releasing the emotion. And I cut off the car, thought about it a bit, and then I went home. Now, I always say it would be great if everything was peachy at that point in time after the fact, but it wasn't. But before that happened, all that, right after she told me that battle back, I thought to myself, okay, I'm a complete mess. My life is in a complete mess, but I can get through this. I can figure out a way. I've always been resilient. I've always had resourcefulness and resolve to get what I want, even at that point in time. And so that moment there changed me from living in a vibration of fear and hopelessness to having faith, even when it seemed enormously difficult and enormously challenging. That faith was still present for me to keep going, to get over, maybe not having this dream come true, or to get over losing that relationship, or having, something happen where a family member did something to offend me. It just gave me faith. It didn't bother me in the same way. And I feel like that never left. That was such a turning point. And I think about that situation with the cell phone ringing. That has happened so many times in my life where my divine team steps in and says, nope, right? Or they shift the events of something, like some type of divine intervention comes in and just explodes onto the scene. And then you just, in my heart, I just know, like, I don't even have to ask. I know, like, that was specifically for me to have the strength to be renewed, to continue on my path. And that 20 something years ago changed my life, transformed it. And it's made me into the most compassionate, kind person that I've ever thought I could be.
Just receiving so much from that, and thank you
Uh,
so much for sharing it.
mhm. You're
I
welcome.
know there are going to be people that listen that will resonate on whatever level,
Mhm.
um, and I got so much from it. It feels emotional as well.
Yeah.
As soon as you mentioned lake, I felt it about to come. Oh, the lake.
Yeah.
um, it's like in a way the lake represents all of your emotions and sensitivities
Mm.
and everything
Yeah.
suppressed.
Yeah.
And even just like that feeling of, feeling like a big loser because,
Yeah.
you had this dream and,
Mhm.
but because you're this beautiful soul self. And as a child, you would have been absolutely this sprinkler of joy and source energy. And then it slowly all got squashed. And then you're like, yes, I want to go for my football dream because you have a sense
Yeah.
of deep soul purpose and you
Yeah.
loved it and you were so energized on the field and all the rest of it that only you
Yeah.
will know.
Yeah.
That's your passion. And then why does the so-called universe hammer you down
Mhm.
and put you in the box? But it doesn't make any sense. This is my dream.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the word acceptance, and
Mhm.
it's like acceptance is the new forgiveness. It's
Yeah.
acceptance opens that door and sets you free.
Mhm.
And even though there might always be that little wound or, that little thing, or could have been this and could have done that,
Yeah.
you opened yourself up to so much more in a way, or it just sent you on the path to where you are now in a way where we've
Absolutely.
all got to face the stuff.
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
hmm
I to add on to what you said, what's interesting is, and really, really profound, is the sight of my would-be death became the environment for some of the greatest spiritual growth of my life. I went back on a regular basis to that spot, and it opened so much up to me spiritually, emotionally. It helped me to transform and eventually have the courage to move to a place where I know I had to further, my evolution. And I would have never gotten it without that environment. So I I always it's kind of bewildering in a sense because it's like that's where I would have died. Like that would have been the end of my story in this lifetime. Yet it was almost a resurrection in a sense where things turned around in that same energetic environment. And it's sometimes a head scratcher because it's so neat to think that all of that good can happen in a place that could have been really, really catastrophic.
mm. Oh gosh, and there's so much energy just when you speak in that whole the lake and going back
Mhm.
to it, and it's
Yeah.
almost like you were always meant to go to that lake.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it speaks volumes, and it spoke to you, and it's a place where from wanting to unalive you alivened more than ever.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's the contradiction, but it's
Mhm.
it's it's the contradiction that that's come up a few times now is
Mhm.
actually the perfect circle or unison.
Yeah.
It's the up and the down, isn't it?
It
And
it it so is, and it calls to mind the idea that God is truly above right and wrong. And so what we see on a human level as wrong as right, God just sees it as is. And so I could have looked in that place and said, "Oh God, no, this is a terrible memory." But something even before I was consciously aware of it said, "No, I should be here," because that same energy was able to transform because I was open to it transforming into something beautiful from something that was, seemingly um, an issue or a problem. And I just think that's phenomenal when we get into that non-dualistic way of operating because it really diminishes limitations because it's not all black and white. It's not success or failure, rich or poor. It's not. It's whatever is in your highest alignment, and whatever is there now is for you. You just have to be, once again, open and receptive to the divine messages and the treasure that come through to enhance you.
The treasure from the pain. It's
Hmm.
it's and when you said the words "I should be here," it's worthiness, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
entering worthiness.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we were all worthy all along, and we've got to go down the route of,
Yeah.
on our journeys to discover
Yeah.
it. And just speaking on the whole notion of suicide and having those thoughts and going to lowest pits of despair, as people would
Mm.
describe those moments, dark nights of the soul, dark weeks, months, years, whatever.
Yes.
It's not always, it's not just one night, guys.
All of that
It can
stuff,
be.
right?
If it's one night, you're lucky. um,
Yeah.
but so many would resonate from that, because we've most of us, we've all gone through our versions of that, and the negative thoughts, the
Mhm.
self-deprecation, and the I'm not good
Yes.
enough, and
Mhm.
thinking about just not being on the planet anymore. I think that that needs to be
Absolutely.
spoken about in a way that is sort of free,
Yeah.
and and acknowledging that.
Mhm.
And I think that really also is connected to, obviously that's a more extreme level, but it's quite common. And
Mhm.
especially when you're feel yourself as a soul person, and
Mhm.
you're like, why am I here? This place is not mirroring divine perfection in any way.
Right.
Sometimes it's just horrible. Um,
Yeah. So true.
and yeah, and then you mentioned earlier about the monkey mind. It's kind of
Mhm.
connected, because when we're so much in our minds, and then the lower mind kind of imprisons us,
Yes.
and it's finding a way to break free from that.
Mhm. Absolutely. That's if you can do that, you can find so much peace in yourself and then reflecting in your surroundings. It is just it's better than anything you can ever get in the outside realm. And intuitively, I wanted something just came up with suicide. And I realized this actually recently. I understood this. And I think this could potentially help anybody struggling with this. Suicide is a direct result when we have killed, suppressed, repressed, um, destroyed an aspect of ourselves that is either one of the most important parts of us in our journey or the most important part that we've sort of denied because lack of approval, lack of validation, parents aren't happy, authority figures aren't happy with us. So we suppress it, we suppress it, we suppress it. What happens is energetically and vibrationally, we kill ourselves over the course of time until finally it manifests itself to doing the act in the third dimensional world. So if we can figure out what it is about us that we've suppressed, right? For me, it was that psychic, empathic, intuitive ability. I suppressed it. I didn't want to be ostracized by my peers, by my religious community, by my family. I didn't want to be looked at as the devil because that's exactly who they saw that associated with, which is just asinine to think about, but that's what they believe, and they're entitled to believe what they choose. And I just killed myself by suppressing it over and over and over till that fateful day when I got to the lake where I was going to go through with taking my own life. But I think if people can really take a moment before you do anything drastic, see what part of yourself you've been unaliving in a repetitive basis. And that will help you to free up so much to where you will get to a space where you can say, yeah, I like being here. I'm here for divine reason. And I think I'm gonna stay, you know. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
so important and deserves, such a moment. So thank you for sharing that.
absolutely. You're welcome.
And I'd love to close off with you with
Mhm.
the idea that it is hard for so many people, and we are struggling. So many are struggling in so
Yeah.
many different ways:
Hmm.
mentally, emotionally,
Hmm.
financially, physically,
Hmm.
spiritually, energetically, all,
Yeah.
all, always. And there is this old paradigm which is in the midst of crumbling.
Hmm.
And we, as the sensitives, the empaths, the old souls and all the rest of it, we feel it on such a profound level.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like not everyone is seeing and feeling it in the same way or depth.
Right.
And so we spoke before we started today, we spoke about the idea of cognitive dissonance and
Hmm.
awakening and people's beliefs and rising sort of beyond that. So if you'd like to end off with whatever you'd like to share about that, and then just about your books and other stuff and whatever you'd like to share with everyone before we
Oh,
close
okay.
off. Yeah.
Fantastic. Cognitive dissonance. If you are, I'm going to be honest with you, right now, it can feel very lonely at times if you're on a spiritual path because the people that are not on that path are in this space of cognitive dissonance where the very truth of what they need for their souls can't be accepted because they're just not resonating on a vibration that's willing to embrace it. And so when you're following your path and you're having these awakenings and these spiritual transformations, it can be difficult watching so many people sort of indirectly reject that. But the truth of the matter is we have to continue to follow our hearts. We have to continue to follow what has been divinely imprinted and blueprinted in our complete, soul essence. We have to really take hold of that, and not in a forceful way, but in a way that sometimes can withdraw us from the world and center us on that source energy that always in every single moment can give us everything we need no matter what the outside world looks like. Right, you could everything could be falling apart. That's the key, to go right back into yourself and to center yourself in that meditation and be able to say, you know what, I'm okay. This is tough, but there's treasure here. There's something for me in this. If I stop rejecting, if I stop refusing, if I stop resisting, I can take a moment and see, wait a minute, there's blessings in all of this. And it may not change at all for a long time. He said, dark night, dark week, dark month, dark year. It may last for a long time, but the truth is all you need is within you, because that's where the divine placed it at for a reason. Because inherently, the infinite intelligence that is God, that is the divine, that is the universe, knew the issues that we were going to face. That is why all the magic is within us, because it's never really a case where we have to look for some sort of solace and comfort on the outside. We just have to look within. And because the within reflects the without, when the divine timing is right, the situation can not only transform, but transform in a way that is extraordinarily positive for you and everybody you're connected to.
Yeah, as you said, transform, all my lights just popped. They made that electrical noise. It's true. That's
Yeah.
the transformation. And we're in such a
Yeah.
period of, massive, massive transformation
Absolutely.
at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have some podcasts and books and stuff. So
I
yeah,
do. I
say what
do.
you'd like to share with everyone.
Okay. So, oh gosh, let me see if I can get it all in. So I have a few books out right now. Most of these are on Amazon. I'm actually gonna give you the ones that I really think is are relevant to what we just spoke about. And there's two of them. And one I co-wrote with my wife. It's called The Universe Loves You. And this book was inspired by the idea that Einstein so eloquently stated: you have to decide what type of universe you live in, a friendly universe or an unfriendly universe. And so that sparked so much truth within me, because that quotation, that profound statement let me know, okay, I've got all the power. I'm the one who has to decide, but I have to decide with my mind, with my vibration, with my entire soul essence, to as to what type of life am I going to live. And this by no means controls the outside world, but it controls the attitude that you have as you approach it. And so when your attitude shifts, where you understand, I may not be able to control what's outside of me, but I can rest assured take care of how I react to it, how I respond. You get all of your power that's already there. You activate it to a degree. And so this book was all about that, starting with the universe loves me. The universe loves me. Because the universe loves me, it's set up, it set my life up to make sure that I not only get every bit of growth that I need and desire to become the most evolved, special version of myself that I desire, but I get the love, the unconditional love that it offers to every single thing endowed with that intelligence. And when we move from that knowing in that space, super, super magical things can begin to unfold. And so this book is just I love it. It's available on Amazon and on Kindle and paperback. So you can order that if you like. It's a really amazing read. We wrote it from just a complete place of love and compassion. Our thing is always doing whatever we can to use our own experiences to help others. And that's always been the guiding force. And it's really enjoyable. And yeah, that's it for that one. The next one is called The Money Cure. And I struggled mightily with money as a child because I was exposed to really impoverished beginnings, but impoverished not in a sense of not having material things, but being around individuals that were mentally and emotionally deficient as it related to money. So along my path, I developed this psychic connection to the idea of money and was inspired to put it into a book. And I purposely made it a short read so people can consistently go back and really sort of learn the wisdom that's been given in it. And it's got 13 divine money truths, as I call them. And each one is a chapter where I just divulge the divine downloads coming through and share the insight that I've gotten from meditating before I actually wrote the book. And there's a part in here I want to share with you. I think this would help anybody if you're experiencing any type of money situation where it's challenging. I had a dream, and in that dream, I was walking through a forest, and I look up, and on the forest, there's, $100 bills, $50 bills, $20 bills, and it all begins to fall, right? It's all falling right before me. And I'm walking through it. And then all of a sudden, I begin to feel anxiety. And I'm not sure why I feel anxiety. I begin to, instead of feel expansive, I begin to contract. And all of a sudden, the money stops falling. And so I look around, I was like, I'm in the dream. I'm like, what's happening? And so intuitively focus on your breath. So I focus on my breath. I take a couple of deep breaths while I'm in the dream, and I return to a state of peace. And as I return to that state of peace, slowly but surely the money starts to fall again. And that showed me that the psychic energy that money carries is resonant with the state of peace, right? This book is mainly allowing you to focus on yourself, focus on aligning to your dreams and your gifts, and that creates such a high level of joy that turns into peace that is then magnetic to money on the outside, and it can increase the flow for you in abundance in a multitude of forms. So that book is available on Amazon as well, paperback and Kindle, whichever one you choose. You're more than welcome to. But I feel like those are the two that are relevant to what we've talked about here.
That's wonderful. They sound amazing. And
Thank
just,
you.
when you speak, it's like I go through the energy story of
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it's true. It's understanding that money is energy, and that's where the
Mhm.
transformation takes place. It's all about us and what we're going through and how that expresses
Yeah.
outwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would be the one place where people, if they'd like to connect with you, what's the best place?
I think honestly, right now, I'm really big on TikTok
Mhm.
and Instagram. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, I'll give you a quick follow back. I am at the Uplifter 504, THEUPLIFTER 504. And then TikTok, sorry, not TikTok, Instagram, I am at I am Shaun Grant, IAMSHAUNGRANT. You can follow me there, and I will follow you back just as fast. So those are the two prevalent social medias I'm into at the moment.
I love it. Okay. So Shaun, thank you so much for, first of all, just being the soul that you are and sharing your divine honesty, wisdom, and raw self with us
Mhm.
and all your vibes that come with that. I honor you and see you and
Yes.
feel you. And thank you so much for sharing your light.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you to share and to just be open and compassionate about sharing the experiences and they mean a lot to me, but they have the potential to really shift and help people to discover the true magic, the true divine magic within themselves, and really change their lives for the better. And that's all that matters is helping people to really discover how truly wonderful they are from the inside out.
You are doing God's work, and thank you.
Thank you so much.